Good morning, good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon for most of us. Good morning for maybe a couple. How are you today? How you doing? Who's in Struggle Town? Anyone in Struggle Town? No. And I guess it's an individual thing what Struggle Town is, or what struggle is to you. But struggle could be just a bit low in energy. It could be that you've got aches and pains. It could be that, very serious things are going on for you or your family or the world, which they are all the time, right? All right, we're going to start with the gong just to connect. So welcome. Welcoming people in to the Zoom, to the other platforms, taking a breath. Just breathing your way back to your body, to your self, an aspect of self, to this moment where you can let everything else just be there for a moment. Breathing. Giving yourself permission to shelve a few things just for this moment. Coming into the container. Ready to receive whatever it is that you may need today. Not having any expectations, any want or any need necessarily. Because often what you want is not what you need. And what you need may not be what you want. So, welcome. Where are we? What are we doing here today? Well, if you're watching this, you are most likely on planet Earth, most likely in a body, although we have the odd one, especially today because, well, we'll see. What I plan to share with you often doesn't actually come out of my mouth. However, we were shown this morning a little bit about connecting with spirit. So I'm Cynthia Harrison and I am the Spirit Whisperer. The business is Rhombus Healing Arts, and this is your on demand. And in about 20 minutes, we'll jump over to our inner circle. But for now, let me see who's here and what's happening. Oh, that wasn't helpful. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. No, it's not going to come up. Oh, there we are. Okay. So if you're watching from the other platforms, I can see the chat, I believe. Yes, there it is. So I'm going to say g'day. There you go. G'day. How you going? How the bloody hell are you? I'm sorry if that offends people. Apparently it offends a lot of people, but I used to say that to my grandparents, and they'd say it to me. We'd pick up the phone and say, I'll get back a bit because we were loud. How the bloody hell are you today? How the bloody hell are you? Right. So anyway, this is how we would speak to each other. My grandparents are passed now. But I can still say to them, maybe I'll just say, for your benefit, how are you? But make no mistake, did I speak to my grandparents very quietly and gently? That is not where I come from. We're like, hey, and even on phone calls, it's like you have to listen out here because very excitable. All right, so we're not going into that energy today. Although if you are loud and proud, then go for it. We're going to be a little more gentle, a little more still. And when we go into just to set some of you up that are coming over to the Inner Circle, Holistic Mystic, we are going into a practice today, a very still exploration or exploratory experience. And so have a journal because after it, I'm going to invite you to make some notes so that you can analyze that and look at that. And if you've got questions, you can ask. But I'm taking you on a journey where you can get an idea of where you are and how you're going in your development, right? In your human development, meaning on all levels. This particular practice was developed more for our trance participants. However, it does show you and give you some information that is helpful to many. So we are going into that. So in about 25 minutes or so, we'll be doing that. All right. Now, if we keep going, then we won't get to that. So I'm going to keep watching your faces. You'll let me know. I've set an alarm. All right. So in saying that, is there anything in particular that you would like to touch on today? What we've done over the months, weeks, years, what's happening tomorrow? Some of you are visionaries, you know. Right? Whoa. What's happening tonight? Can you see it? No? All right, then. So what happened yesterday? What happened the last 20 years? What's happened the last 50 years? What's happened? What's going on? So I'm just going to put this restream to the side so I don't need to look at that the whole time. All right, because you know, if you don't talk, I'm just gonna tell you stuff, and it may not be interesting to you, so you can jump in. No. Anyone? I'm just looking at the chat. No. All right. Well, we're radio silence then. What do you do when it's radio silence? Reverence. Reverence. Well, I just started. Okay, so we talked about on Tuesday, wasn't it? Tuesday we talked about reverence. So in the chat I can see the word reverence. So in this moment I don't seem very reverent. You were sound asleep on Tuesday, so you were reverent in your sleep. Well, the video's up in the portal. I believe. I'm pretty sure I put it up. I remember doing it, but I could have been on another plane, some other galaxy far, far away doing that. All right, so reverence. What about reverence? Have you been practicing reverence? Meaning, we were talking about not answering the phone with how bloody hell are you? Although you could, if you were in that connection and fully conscious. But it's probably less likely, right? Most people, when they connect to something greater than themselves, not their grandparents, although they are greater than if your grandparents are anything like mine, right? Something greater than yourself. The lineage keepers, the ones that threw the spark forward for us to be here, and we carry on that, in many ways, how we cause and create in the world. So this idea of reverence, I don't know if you've got a question about that, because I don't want to just regurgitate what I said on Tuesday necessarily. What I was getting at was how to have that connection to that true self, or that neutral mind, or that sense of calm. Right? So we'll do this. How to be deeper in reverence when you're not feeling it all the time. It's not necessarily about being deeper. So remember, good question. Remember when I spoke about love, and not so there are different psychological terms for love, right? I'm not going to go into that. I'm talking about when you have traversed your developmental stages, right, from the lower parts of the body, right, the human. I don't have my I showed you my I was planning yesterday. I have to show you now my whiteboard. I can't use it because I cannot rub it out yet, but man, I was off on another trajectory. It sort of looks like my background, actually. I'm just going to show you a real quick view of it. You may not be able to see it because of the thing. No, you can't see it. There you go. 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 Anyway, it is covered. It is. There you go. Oh, and what's it covered with? My mystical ways of knowing, cross-fertilization. And in fact, interesting, I put this background up because that's how I did it. I was looking at circles and lines. I will get to your question, but it relates to this, circles and lines, right? The womb and the phallus, or the masculine and feminine, or the mother and the father, or the one and the zero, right? The finger and the ring. We can go on and on. I was looking at the different ways of knowing, and I got a little inkling this week of something else. So I was looking at all of these different teachings, and there's something else there. There's something else there. And this is to do with the rise, right? RISE, which connects to the teachings. Well, some of you are in Relevate, regulates elevate, right? Some of you have done intuitive studies. We didn't run it this year. We'll see whether we run it again shortly. I'm feeling drawn to it, but in a different way. And then we've got psi and we've got evolver, right? Or evolve, and then the one-to-one. So the rise, but this is the your trajectory through your development as a human, as a species, right? So how does that connect to what I was just talking about? Well, this lower, the triangle that we call the earth experience or the human. And if you go back through the teachings, some of you might just be coming on. I'm not going to draw pictures because all my whiteboards, even these little ones, they're full, people. They're full. You can't see them, but I got whiteboards all over this room and they are full. And I'm like, I need more whiteboards, or I need to I take photos and I save it or whatever, or I write it into my copious amount of journals. I need to see it. You need to see it all at once. And I'm in creation phase. I'm in creation phase because I'm getting downloads right now around how these teachings from the last few years, what that next level is. So it's pretty awesome and I'm all pumped up about it. So coming back to love, it's infinite. So is it about going deeper? So taking that to reverence. When you feel that love, that connection, that honoring, right? In a way, it's not about going deeper. And sometimes we just use words to get our point across. I know, but you've got me on a tangent now. I'm off on a tangent where it's not about deeper. And if we, so I'll speak to all of us, if we get caught up in, I'm not deep enough, what is that for you, right? So listen, when you're wanting something different, what's your self-talk? So I'm not saying you're doing this, I'm just using it as a teaching point. How to get deeper, how to be deeper, how to get in contact with, and we're going to go into this a little bit in about 15 minutes when I take you through this visioning, because there'll be times when some of you are advanced and you'll just go and get experiences and whatnot, and others will be judging, cursing, and not being very reverent to themselves at all, or spirit. So when you're not feeling it at the time, you're not feeling it doesn't mean it's not there. So sometimes I just don't feel it. And then I'm searching myself, wondering where it is exactly. Oh, I heard you today. Do you know that I heard you today? Because what we're going into, it's complete. I haven't taught this for a while. Some of you have done trance with me or intuitive studies. There'll be some familiarity, but I never do the same thing twice, really. I mean, it's rare. I probably now and then do something similar, but we're going to go into a process. And why? Because this question or this comment, I'm searching myself, wondering where it is. That's doubt. Or how to be deeper or more, how to be more. So, you know, other people might be saying, you know, I've been in this business, you know, you might be an entrepreneur or you started a job or whatever, and you're like saying, I should be further along. I should be. Like there's no reverence there, because how are you speaking to yourself? I know it's that old chicken, that old chestnut, isn't it? That old chestnut. How are you speaking to yourself? How are you with your, whatever your name is, right? That's a part of you. It's not all of who you are. So, you know, when we're coaching someone, coaching and mentoring are different. I'm primarily a mentor because what I teach, I've experienced directly, right? As a mystic, I teach you what I've experienced directly. I'm not teaching you something I learned from somebody else, right? In that way. I'm, so a coach, I could teach you how to play soccer as a coach, but I couldn't mentor you necessarily on soccer skills because, well, although I did play soccer, for a hot minute in high school. Hockey, on the other hand, or touch football, right? Or maybe even cricket, yes, because I played all those sports, right? But, what do you call football in America? Just football, I guess. But is there a name for it? I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't even. I got no idea what they're doing. They're just running around with funny clothes on. Soccer. Soccer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. Soccer is. So you don't know what. Okay. You don't know what soccer is. It's a round ball. It's white and black. Anyway, it's a whole nother ball game. It's huge in Australia and Europe. So I thought they had it here. And in some countries, it's called football. But then in Australia, we've got all sorts of different types. We've got AFL and rugby league, and they're all played with a crazy shaped ball. And soccer is a round ball. Anyway, took me off my track a little. Mentoring and coaching. So if you're, and some of you may not be interested in this, so bear with me. If you're in a business, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to develop or have more clients or create new programs and courses without having to start from scratch, and all these different goals, right? You can have your goal or have what you vision, what you want to create, cause and create. I call it set and forget, really. So there's certain ways that you can get to that end game. Why we talk about regulation and nervous system and what stops you and your fear and fear of love is because ultimately they're the things that are going to stop you, even in your spiritual practice. So if we're talking about reverence, why we can't feel or open or be vulnerable enough to, even in our misery, have reverence or have gratitude or love or honoring the other, whether that's your partner, your pets, your children, the other, or spirit, God, the beloved, right? What prevents us from having those experiences? Or if you know, what prevents you? So think of something that you're wanting to experience, right? That could be reverence in prayer, in your ritual, if you're a medium, if you're a channeler, if you're trance, if you're an energy worker, if you're some sort of healer, if in your relationships, what is it that stops you? What happens is what I'm saying. What's happening or not happening? So if we go back to these points in the chat, how to be deeper when you're not feeling it all the time. So I know that these words are used, right? And sometimes we're typing them in just to put something in, right? But I'm going to talk to it. I'm going to pull it to pieces, and it's not directed at the person who's written it. It's just used to pull out what the energy is in this space at the moment, right? So if we don't feel it, so if we could do this on our spiritual levels, on our energetic levels, or on our physical levels. Have you ever been with your lover or your partner and you just don't feel them? Right? Have you? You can just say it in your head if you don't want it. But like, this is about how we receive and what prevents us from fully receiving. Like, this is a powerful point. Because if we're always about going out, right? Yes, there is that sharing and being in service and all the rest of it. However, if you don't have a great relationship with yourself and you're not set up to receive, like your vessel or your, we talked about this a few weeks ago, didn't we? Around, what is your limit? Like, what's the perimeter of where you stretch to? What can you hold? If this bowl was made out of all sorts of glass, and I, was a while ago, I was telling you about different glass, and when you, make an object out of all different glass, it's unstable. So when you hit it, or if the atmosphere changes, it can shatter without even touching it, right? It's unstable. So is your boundary, is your perimeter, is your capacity limited? And everybody's capacity has a limit, right? When we start to meet that capacity or touch into those edges, it feels uncomfortable. It can hurt. It can make you feel like you want to cry. Have you ever been going along, and it could be anything. It could be exercising, or you're in a challenge or a sport, or I don't know what you're into, right? Or maybe you don't challenge yourselves. Maybe you sit in your comfort, so you won't know what your boundary is. You won't know what your capacity is. You won't know what your potential is. And from day dot, as far back as I can remember, this little chicken here, she's wanted to know what the human capacity is. And man, she's put this little human through the ringer, right? Things we used to do is crazy stuff that you just, I mean, these days you just, most kids wouldn't even have the opportunity. However, I know what the capacity of this vehicle is, of this one. Well, I know it to this point. I'm still seeing, but I'm doing it in a more scientific way, right? Rather than a risk-taking kid, I'm doing it in a more, you could say, more reverent way, or a more conscious way. You will get experiences whether you create them for yourself or, well, you create them for yourself, full stop, but whether you're conscious or not conscious of it. So how about writing this down as a remembrance, as a memory, as a reminder that when we create our own opportunities for growth, right, it's there, we can see it, it stretches us, but we know what's stretching us and we know when it's coming. We have some, for those control freaks out there, or recovering perfectionists, recovering controllers, right? It's a beautiful way. It's like moving out or towards or in whatever direction, because really there isn't any. And experiencing something, anything. The key here, going back to those first questions here around how to be deeper or how to feel it or how to not feel it for some people. Some of you are feeling so much, you're like, just make it stop. And others are like, oh, let me feel something. Right? These ends of the spectrum where we numb ourselves to life often, right? Or we busy ourselves. Busying ourselves isn't a challenge because you never actually get anything completed. Think about that, those of you that are busybodies or, you know, doers, do. Or you complete and you're on to the next thing. And the thing with that, and I've mentioned this before, but the thing with that piece is that we don't, in our culture, in Western society anyway, we don't see being busy as a problem. I spoke to a woman the other day. We were talking about this. She's a psychologist also. You know, we were talking about attachment and adaptive strategies and whatnot. And we were discussing this because she was that. She was so busy and had all of these programs, and she was doing a PhD, and she was doing, you know, this program, and had a 5-month-old baby and all the rest of it. So much. And she was conscious of her strategy to keep herself distracted from what's actually needs to be looked at. But on the other side, she said, I can't see a problem with it because I'm getting all of this done. Can you see? It only often, so hear me, often that style, way of being, often we see it later in life being a problem. Right? There are some ways of being and some protective strategies that help us, you know, with the things that feel uncomfortable. And they're not a problem in our younger years, right? Because of our society, how our society likes it. For instance, when I worked, I mean, I laugh because it's like, it was an epic role, but the kids, the children and youth that weren't able to go to school because no school would have them, they're the kids that I hung out with. Right? And man, they're awesome. We have so much fun. However, they can't regulate. So you stick them in a classroom, and as their stress level or their triggers get touched, whether they free any of the F's, right? Fight, flight, freeze, feign, death, fawn, all the rest. They get kicked out of school. They get kicked out of class, right? But what used to happen is we would look at boys. Most of my clients were young boys. And they'd do things like booby trap the principal's chair and do all sorts of stuff that you sort of like, right? However, they get kicked out of school, right? And, explode because of behavioral stuff. But what went underrated, and I'm talking, 30 years ago now, we know better now. But what went under the radar were the quiet ones, the ones that didn't say anything and sat quietly in the room, often shut down. Our society doesn't see quiet, shut down people as an issue. We don't often see them. Does that make sense? These are extremes, right? And it's changed over time because humans have been shifting, but it generally was the boys that would get kicked out for more active, sort of aggressive behaviors, and it was the girls that would go hypo-aroused, right? Go down, lower, be quiet, just get through the day. Right? Over time, that shifted, and I got more and more girls to work with, and oh my goodness, were they adventurous, right? Which, I have a lot of energy, so it was a perfect fit. So point of my stories is what? There's not one way, there's many ways, and we need to know how we are in certain situations. So in regards to, we could say reverence, we could say meditation, we could say listening, we could say love, we could say intimacy, we could say even with physical intimacy with our partner. Are we feeling anything? Or are we just going through the motions? Because that links to what I spoke about on Tuesday around prayer and your even energetics. Do you know how many years? So I've been doing advanced energetics for probably 30, 27, 30 years, something like that. Long time, right? And I would see people going through the motions. It's like just going through the motions. I'm like, whatever. There's no connection. And by fluke, do you know what fluke means? By accident, something may happen, right? Depending on their intention. Because we can create shift in another or in the world without actually moving with that connection. So if we're not feeling, I know I've gone all over the place and we've got to wrap up because I said my alarm's gone off twice now. If we're not feeling, so I didn't see anyone telling me to stop. I'm waiting. No. Okay. So let's wrap this up to give you something before we go into the actual practice. Taking the time. So let's take this back to intuitive studies where we would give 3 to 5 minutes. When you're starting out, a good 5 minutes of connection. Have you noticed that? Right? When you sit in your power and then you move to the power where you're not calling anything in yet. You're not reaching out beyond yourself, and nor should you, because when you're expanded into your power, your field, then you can touch into anything. So just spending a few minutes with that intention of connecting to the self, when you can't feel it, or some of you feel too much. Is there such thing as feeling too much? Well, you tell me. So when you're sitting in your power and you start to get hot or feel aches and pains, or start to feel where your energy level actually is, and you're not masking anything anymore, you tell me. Is that comfortable? It's not a good or bad. It's just a noticing where you're actually at. So I know I didn't answer the question that you asked. I know I answered other questions around the question that you asked, because it really comes back to, it doesn't matter what it is. We're calling it reverence, right? If you're doing something, are you conscious? What state of consciousness are you? Right? So we're talking broadly here, right? We're talking as spirit whisperers in a way, right? We've got this real density human experience of, okay, when somebody reaches out and touches me, do I feel it? How do I feel it? Do I feel the energy of it before it touches me, or am I feeling that maybe you don't feel at all? Like it really, you know, your physical body has been shut down a little. That's okay. Just take a note of that and start asking those questions. Come in and let's start working on how to get you back in connection with your body in a safe, secure way, because often, well, not often, always, when you start numbing out the physical, right? So you can't feel pain. You've got a very high pain threshold. It can be an indication of trauma, right? So is it that you're not feeling, or is it that there's a numbing out or a disconnection from the felt sense? Now, I don't know, but we can find out, right? That's the work we do on a deeper level in one-to-ones, but in Relevate, you can come and start to learn how your systems work, learn how you experience sensation in the body and what that means for you, not for other people, but for you, right? So if you're overly sensitive, it's the other end. You're opening, it's like this, you know, spiritual ego aspect of where you're opening and you can feel so much that you want it to stop, or you get scared, right? You get scared. On some level, it scares you. You may not even know that you're scared. I ask this all the time of myself now, because I'll stop doing certain things. And we might just think, oh yeah, just stop doing that. I start to say, did I move away from that because something scared me? There was something there that was showing me another aspect of my greatness. And I wasn't ready to go there, because that's what we do. Did you know that? We could say, oh yeah, I did that for a while, but I changed my mind. Did you change your mind? Or did something happen? You touch into an aspect of self that had a little fear in there, that scared you. This is what kept me from a lot of the work I do now as a kid. I was petrified. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want anything to do with spirit. And I still don't watch horror movies and all that sort of stuff because I got a photographic memory. I keep seeing things, right? I don't want to see things all the time. That's a fear. Does it make sense? So when we're talking about fear, oh my goodness, it's everything. Too much, not enough. And life is literally just walking through the fears and going, which ones are acceptable and which ones are not. And at one moment, it may be acceptable, and another moment it's not. So at one moment, we might be feeling and experiencing, and in another moment, is there, how will I say this? Because this is what I look for. If I'm doing I'm doing a yoga meditation or something, a kriya, and I'm not seeing like my, crazy to say it like this, but how my eyes experience things. If I can tell where I'm at by what I'm seeing, right? So it's like turning the little channel when you're aware of that. So, okay, how do I get feeling or experiencing? If you're not feeling, let's just, it doesn't matter at what time. If you're not experiencing, then look at your life, look at the day, look at how you woke up. What's in your field? Have there been distractions? Has something happened that you're ruminating about? Right? It's like the one-pointedness. Do you know when you watching the one-pointedness, right? So just say you're watching that center circle, that one-pointedness, and you can't keep the focus on the center green piece or that little bit that looks like an eye. Can you see that little eye in the tree? And just try and keep your gaze on that eye or one piece of that. And it's not, again, not a good or bad thing. It's just showing you where your capacity is at that moment of stillness. How still can you get? How still can you be? Right? And that's why, you know, I used to give people yantras to vision. But you could do it. I use the sky, right? When I look into the sky, I see gateways. So I just, you know, and they've got a center. It's not the same as this, but right. And I'll just sit outside and just view the sky. But some of you see all the different little, some of them look like sperm, but you know, all the little types of energy, the chi, the prana, watching those, but staying still. Does that make sense? It's like it's all this movement around you, but you're still. And it's not like you're looking at anything. It's like you're looking through. So that's a practice. So go back to those practices where you can get your stillness. And when you have the stillness, right, go into that with the gratitude and the I love you. See, it's the same for me when people say I love you just as words. It annoys the, because I don't do that, because it's sacred to me, right? See what I mean? Like if you're just saying it like you're saying hi, 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 it's empty. There's no reverence. So if you can practice when you say I love you, or you use the word love, practice what that feels like to you. Maybe you don't know what it feels like, and there's the work. Maybe you don't know what love is, and that's the work or the play. However you want. Just, you follow me? Like, I'm not here to give you any one answer, because you're all individual, and how your systems and your energies are functioning and what you're here to learn, what your purpose is, how you're here to cause and create is different. And so these are things that we can unfold and talk about in relation to you specifically, based on how your system reacts to different things. It's not this is why I don't do, I very rarely do like recorded classes on these sorts of things, because everyone's different. You've got to track that energy and track those beliefs and conditioning patterns to go, okay, this is how it impacts you, and these are the things that you'll see. So if you go this way, you're more likely to go this way when you're experiencing love or what you think is love, and others will go this way and it'll be a different experience. So the sensation or the feeling, and it's interesting because now we can go into, oh, well, the feeling or the sensation is in the body is fear. Oh, now we've just opened a whole nother kettle. Okay, so what am I feeling then when I'm in reverence? Okay, so I'm going to leave it on that. We're going to go over to the inner circle. I'm going to go deeper in this, but right, food for thought. So bring me your questions, bring me what's going on for you, and let's have a conversation. So those of you that would like to participate with us, go to Holistic Mystic Mastermind. You'll see it under wherever you're watching this video. And we're going to go deeper into this. Today, we're going into an experience where you can individually get your own information, because you're all different. You're all different. You're as individual as your thumbprint. Okay, much love. I'll see you next Tuesday, if not before. Unless you're in Relevate, I'll see you on Friday. May the blessings be. Okay.